Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Harmony Foundation podcast series. And I'm pleased today to be joined with Rudy Novak with Turnbridge out of New Haven, Connecticut. Welcome, Rudy.
Hi, friends.
It's good to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to hear more about Turnbridge. I've known about Turnbridge for some time, and to be able to get some of the specifics is really exciting. But before we do that, we want to learn a little bit about you. So you work with Turnbridge, and you've been in the field for a little while, but tell us what got you into the field of addiction treatment.
So, like a common story that we sometimes hear, I'm in recovery myself. I entered recovery November 29th of 2000. I was 18 years old. I went through a long-term treatment center. Afterwards, I was there for 19 months. Afterwards, I went to college. I got involved in young people's conferences, young people's meetings, traveling around the country, making friends everywhere, right? All in the recovery world, concerts, traveling, camping, lots of fun things, which I didn't believe were available to me in recovery. That once these things were available to me, sort of fired me up into the recovery world. Afterwards, went to law school at Rutgers Camden, right? Which was across the street from the courthouse I grew up in. As an adolescent, I had substance use disorder and sort of difficult events that led to these things, which I spent some time in that courthouse.
I'm away from home.
So, 6 years later, I return as a law student across the street. Wow. And again, my name is Rudy Novak. So I was not very good at blending in, right, with such a name. And the local officials, judges, sort of people that worked in the courthouse and the law school, everybody sort of took notice. And I received the same question a number of times over and over, is how does that kid become this man? 6 years later, you're in community service, you're doing pro bono work, you're in law school, you're in the top 10% of your class. How does that kid become this guy? And my answer was recovery, treatment, meetings, maintenance, meditation, therapy, right? These things, the only things that I really knew and a little tiny bit about, right? From my own experience. By no means an expert. So, what this led to was all of these officials and people in the area leaning on me. Now this was 2006, right? Leaning on me for resources for their own family members, for their own co-workers, peers, people in their communities, from their churches to their community organizations, right, who were struggling with substance use disorder or mental health diagnoses, right? So my phone started ringing as a law student on how to help people. And what I immediately said in response was, I actually don't know the answer. I can tell you my experience, my strength, my hope, right? I can take you to meet some people with similar concerns, right? But I am no expert by any means. But what I can do is I can call everybody I know that I've met over the last 6 years and try to get you as many recommendations as I can, right? And that's how we got here, where we are in 2017, working for Turnbridge, and still doing exactly that. The phone rings, how can I help? Whatever the situation may be, maybe it's appropriate for Turnbridge, most of the time it's not, right? Who needs help, where, what part of the country, and how can I help them? There are 10,000 phone numbers in my cell phone, and I will give all of them to anybody who needs help in a certain area, right? Whether it be treatment centers, clinicians, interventionists, educational consultants, therapeutic consultants, whatever it may be. So that's how we sort of got here. Now, I clerked for a judge in New Jersey. The phone was still ringing for this stuff, right? I went through all of law school. The phone was still ringing for this stuff. When my peers had issues, they called me, right? and I sort of did my best to help them, steer them down the right path.
Yep.
And then I went and practiced law, local government, sort of business law, different things at different firms in New Jersey. My phone was still ringing for this stuff. And I slowly got involved in this field, became a certified interventionist, right? Took all the trainings in a few different modalities, started attending conferences, and this is how I got to Turnbridge.
So you became truly an information resource and sort of a catalyst for change for people. And it sounds like the phone kept ringing, which was the sign of, we need you somewhere else, Rudy.
And I listened to that.
Yeah.
Now I still am licensed to practice law. I'm still insured. I've still taken all my educational credits, and I'm still happy to help in that area as well. But believe it or not, these things are very often intertwined, right? Families, clients, different organizations are sometimes in need of help in both of these areas at the same time. How do we approach this? What are the legal issues at play? Or how can we use the legal world to help us achieve recovery for our loved one?
Right. Which often is punitive. It's not necessarily seen as supportive.
Which does not have to be the case.
Sure.
If prepared for, and if there's good communication with families and the legal systems involved, right, there are often very many ways to use these issues as leverage to help people, right, and to sort of reward recovery,
right,
instead of
shaming them and putting them in those places.
Right.
Well, thanks for sharing us your background. That's fantastic. We want to talk a little bit now about Turnbridge. You've got this really unique concept that you talk about on your website called the Preparative Care Program. It indicates that Turnbridge is more than just a rehab program. Can you describe to the listeners what that means when you say that you have this preparative program, and what are the various levels that are attached to it?
So one of the issues that I believe we all see in this treatment industry is treatment of symptoms and lack of life skills and the ability to continue these things after that treatment. So this is prevalent in my own life, right? From a couple minutes ago, right? I was in treatment for 19 months, right? And then afterwards, what was the aftercare provided, right? So at Turnbridge, it's a 3-phased residential treatment center, right, with corresponding clinical, right? So what does that look like? Someone goes to a primary treatment center, right, and maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe they've been to a number of them before, right? And we've tried other options. We've tried going back home. We've tried going to the sober dorm at college. We've tried different issues, trying to find the right level. And none of that has worked, right? Turnbridge has 220 staff members. We have 3 phases, right? Phase 1 is very much about learning who this young adult is. And we are a young adult program, right? We have clients today that are 17 years old, and we have clients today that are 29 years old, 31 years old, right? But most of our clients resemble a 22-year-old young adult, male or female. We are gender specific, so these are 2 almost completely separate programs, but intertwined. Different care is provided for different genders. So phase 1 is really about getting to know this young adult, right? Everything is provided, everything is taken care of. These are beautiful homes in and around New Haven, Connecticut. We're involved in athletics, sports leagues, softball leagues, hockey leagues, soccer leagues. We have a number of rec events, almost sort of rec therapy, right? So how do I enter recovery and enjoy my life? How do I find a life that's worth protecting? So getting comfortable and getting through the rehab shuffle that we've done maybe once before, maybe more, and sort of figuring out who we are. Now, 220 staff, 200 alumni in the area, right? There's a number of resources. There's a community there for you, right? There are guys and girls that have been through where you are right this second before. And the whole point is everybody sort of circles the wagons, right? And love each other up. Now there's a phase 1, getting comfortable. Phase 2 is really a training ground, right? So resume classes, cooking classes, transportation classes, educational advisors, right? Volunteer positions in the community, right? Start looking at what's the next step. There's 7 universities within 15 minutes, right? From Gateway Community College to Yale University. And we have attended all 7 of them, right? There are culinary schools, there are VOTECs, there's all sorts of options, right? But phase 2 is really preparing for that, right? Can we get a recovery appropriate position in phase 3, right? What does that look like? In all of these phases, there are case managers that are there every single day working with every client that are available for them, right? For whatever issue that they may be having. Now, New Haven, the number 1 industry in New Haven is also medicine, right? So any sort of difficult medical issues, we already have those relationships in town, right? They know what our mission is. They know how to approach our clients, right? They know who we are, and they take care of us, right? And the point is, we're not walking into random offices with random issues. Everything is set up beforehand. Phase 3, on the residential side, is really the practice ground, right? That's where now it's your schedule, it's your calendar, right? But you have to have a schedule. You have to be in school, right? Working towards it, right? Now, we are a 12-step based treatment center. That is what we are. Now, there are other options available: smart recovery, refuge recovery, meditation, all sorts of things, right? But we are a 12-step community. That's what we are. Which has been helpful to me, because anywhere in the world I go, there's somewhere for me to go and to have relationships with people and lean on people and sort of build networks, whatever it may be. But so phase 3 is really the practice ground where, and as you walk around Turnbridge, you can identify clients and what phase they're in without talking to them. You can tell who is at what phase. And they're all very excited to get to the next phase, understandably, right? A little bit more freedom, right? A little bit more community involvement, but there's responsibilities that come with that. So the overarching theme is data collection. So all of our staff carry iPads and we log data every 15 to 45 minutes, right? So for example, did I wake up on my own, right? Did I need to be woken up or did I refuse? All throughout the day into the night. So this creates a picture of treatment by fact, a reality that flows into the clinical building, that flows into the family therapist, that flows into everybody's offices, so we could see what reality is for this client, right? So not just these amazing clinical relationships that they build with their clinician that they stay with throughout, right? But also a treatment of reality, right? What does this actually look like? So instead of rushing to the next phase, right, is, do I have the skills ready for the next phase? Or how do we find the soft spots, the difficulties, right, that maybe we missed on after a quick primary and a sober living with two staff members or whatever it may be, right? So, and there are certain common things, right? When the smartphone comes back, right, all of a sudden, there's difficulty waking up in the morning, right? Or in phase 2, there's no longer a full gym and a full spin room on the property, right? So now we have to sort of get a ride there, right? So did I stop going to the gym and now I can't sleep at night, right? So there's a number of different issues, and all of that information also flows to the psychiatrist, to the psychiatric providers, right? So it's very helpful with med management later on as well. Now, 3 different phases, right? So we have the time, and these psychiatrists have the time to actually do real med management, right? To see what's actually necessary, what's not necessary.
So what's their length of stay?
So the average we came out with an outcome study. A third party came in, reviewed all of our alumni, contacted everybody, right? This was last year. And what we found was if a client stayed over 270 days, they had a 95% chance of getting a year sober, right? Of that 95%, 80% got 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Great.
So, but the clients that stayed less than 270 days had a 40% chance of getting 1 year, and so on, right? So it's, the length of stay is determined by the data,
Right.
right? So
it's individualized care at
every
its finest.
single aspect, right? That said, there are clients that come in and they have the life skills that phase 1 is asking for, that phase 2 is asking for. So they breeze through those. And the real difficulty is in phase 3 in the practice, right? Or vice versa. So it's, I would say that a family willing to invest in Turnbridge should consider the phases and the lengths, right? And be prepared for a real commitment to recovery on a family level, right? So that also brings us to the family program, right? So educational seminars every month in New Haven, right? That families, actually there's a number of families that have already graduated years ago that are still attending these seminars to be available to the new families coming in, right? We also run 5, I think 6 now, weekly support groups in local communities from Philadelphia to Boston for families that may be in those areas. Now that said, there are families that are from Utah, from Texas, from California, right? From London, right? From Guatemala. There's families from everywhere. And they fly in, right? As much as they can. Also, what we created was a weekend retreat for families. And this is happening about every other month, where families get together and they stay in a beautiful home in Connecticut and they spend the weekend together, forming the relationships that might be more difficult to form in their own communities, right? With other families going through the same things. Now, each family gets 3 calls every week, minimum, right? In addition to all these services, right? We have 5 clinicians that are only doing family therapy every day, right? For every single family that's at Turnbridge. So, 1 call from the residential case manager regarding their young adult, how he's doing, the data, reality, what's actually happening, what's needed, handling concerns. 1 call from the family liaison, right? How are the support group meetings going? What are you struggling with? How can I connect you with other families, right? Things of this nature. Family therapy, right? So that can be in person, right? Or that can be via the online system, whatever that may be called, that's HIPAA compliant, whatever that is. And this starts pretty soon after admission. And by the way, all of these services are available pre-admission, right? Families can inquire, meet with, go anywhere in the Turnbridge pre-admission. This is a customer service-oriented organization, right? We are asking for a commitment, an emotional commitment, right? Time commitment, a financial commitment, right? We want these families to be very comfortable with what they're getting involved with, right? And to see the outcomes, right? To meet with clients that have been successful and are now working for us, right? That are part of our community, right?
Very comprehensive, and finding the nature of the work that you all are doing and working with young adults. I know that there's been a lot of movement over the years, especially since insurance has changed and families are allowed to keep their young adults on their insurance policies longer. So you see a lot of the evolution of young adult programs popping up over the last 6, 8, 10 years. With Turnbridge's approach in working with young adults, can you briefly describe why that kind of environment works well when they're in treatment with like-minded peers?
So we've been doing it for 15 years. We've been doing young adult extended care for 15 years with males. Women's we've been doing for a couple of years. June 15th, 2016, we opened our doors for the women's program. We had 8 clients admit on day 1. 6 of them are still with us 2 of them are now employees, right? In our alumni program in New Haven. So for 15 years, our young adults have been supporting each other, right? Have been growing together, and the only real thing I can look back on is my own recovery, right? The anecdote. I went to meet. I mean, this was 2000. This was 17 years ago. I would walk into meetings, and I would be the youngest person in there by 40 years, right? I had no friends, right? I had no people to relate to, and I was supposed to stay in recovery without having this community to lean on, right? So once I found these young people, right, I dove in, right, as we were talking about earlier. But so to relate that to Turnbridge, 220 employees, right? Many of them still classify as young people. I don't know if I still classify, but I did at one point. 200 plus graduates in the area, living independently, working, opening up businesses, in school, having relationships, getting married, starting their lives, right? And then sharing that with the new young adults coming into the program, right? I don't think that the same results that I've had in my life would have been available without a community of young people. Now, that said, I still needed the not-so-young people with more experience than me, but I will tell you, walking into a room and seeing another man or a group of other men actually, who entered recovery when they were 18, but were 10 years ahead of me, and now had jobs, had families, had car insurance, right? Had the things that I didn't know how to get, right? Was helpful to me in growing towards that. Otherwise, I would have to sit down with a 60-year-old man and try to relate on that level, right? So
definitely a benefit in having that similar age range, but even having a few years ahead provides that mentorship.
Absolutely.
Which is really beneficial.
Absolutely.
So we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to ask you just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Playing off of the idea of the word harmony, what do you think it means to live a life in harmony?
So I think of the word humility. I think of, I remember sitting with a sponsor, and he asked me what I thought the word humility meant. And I said, an accurate appraisal of self, right? Because I looked it up earlier that day, you know. And he added more to it, right? And he said, in relation to the people around you, to your higher power, whatever that may be, right? To the world, right? An accurate picture and how to relate to those in that picture. And I think it's important to understand those relationships and how I can be in harmony, right, with those people wherever they may be. So I'm blessed that I've been able to travel the world a little bit and see how other people in this world live. I've been able to travel all over the country, not all 50 states, but close, right? I think I'm a few short. But to see how the rest of this country lives and people's different takes on different issues, and primarily related to recovery. But how can I be of service? One of the things I was told early in recovery is that, and this might be a little drastic, but it stuck with me, was that I would have to give back for the rest of my life for all the gifts that I had been given, right? And looking back on my own story, where I had come from, right? The difficulties I experienced as an adolescent, right? Many by my own doing, but many just difficult circumstances. The gifts that I've been given to live this amazing life that I live now, right? It's my job. Well, it's also literally my job, right? To share those gifts. Right. When it wasn't my job, it was still my job, right? It's still what I love to do. So how can I be of service to the people around me and to the world? How can I use the gifts that I've been given to be helpful, right? And it turns out that's by answering the phone and saying, how can I help you?
That's it.
Right? And I think that, for me, allows me to be as close to what I think harmony may be.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if people were interested in accessing services at Turnbridge, how could they get in touch with you?
So, Our website
Mm-hmm.
is tpaddictiontreatment.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can Google Turnbridge and just make sure you're going to the right website.
Mm-hmm.
My cell phone, my direct number, which you can call or text, is 856-906-2980. My name is Rudy, just like the movie, Rudy, Novak, Novak. I'm available at any time. And by the way, all of our staff is available at any time. There is a main number. It's 203-937-2309. You can call that number as well. You can call my cell phone. You can Google us. You can email us. Whatever we can do to help. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.